Epiphanius, Bishop of Salamis in Cyprus, is best remembered for his great literary and ecclesiastical work, the Panarion. Written between 374 and 377 CE, it belongs to the twilight of the Roman Empire. A staunch defender of Nicene orthodoxy, Epiphanius set out to expose what he saw as deviations from the apostolic faith. The Panarion, literally medicine chest, is a vast spiritual manual, a catalogue of heresies and their cures. Each entry diagnoses a doctrinal disease and prescribes the antidote of orthodoxy. The work was designed to shield believers from error and preserve the unity of faith. Yet, despite its polemical intent, the Panarion remains an invaluable record of early Christian diversity, voices later silenced by the triumph of Nicene authority. Epiphanius structures the Panarion around 80 refutations of aberrant sects, theologies and beliefs that are spreading spiritual and doctrinal disease. In refutation number 30, entitled Against the Ebionites, Epiphanius links the sect to a figure called Eltsai. There arose after these a certain man named Eltsai, who also wrote a book and gave some imaginary description of Christ and of the Holy Spirit. He caused many Jews to go astray with him, saying that Christ was born again many times and that he appeared frequently in different bodies. Epiphanius adds, some of them even say that Adam is Christ, the man who was formed first and who comes again in the last days. Epiphanius continues, he, meaning Christ, comes here when he chooses, as he came in Adam and appeared to the patriarchs with Adam's body on. And in the last days, the same Christ who had come to Abraham, Isaac and Jacob came and put on Adam's body and was crucified, rose and ascended. Later, summarizing their doctrine, he says, they say that Christ has been made manifest in many bodies, and at one time in that of Adam, and now finally in that of Jesus. Epiphanius ridicules this idea with the famous line, the Son dons Adam and doffs him when convenient. And finally, he reports, they say that Christ descended in the form of a dove and that when he came to Jesus, he put on the man called Jesus. Here we encounter the essence of the Jewish Christian understanding of the Christ or Messiah, the philosophy of the primal Adam. It is a profoundly intriguing vision. For ancient communities, the Christ was not a single historical figure, but a spiritual power, an eternal heavenly being, higher than the angels and created before all things. This divine power, they believed, had appeared in human form many times, first in Adam and finally in Jesus. To Epiphanius, such teaching was intolerable. It implied that Jesus was merely the latest vessel or embodiment of the Christ, rather than the one unique Son of God. Jewish Christians, he reports, regarded Jesus as only one incarnation of the eternal Christ. And it was not this Christ, not Jesus himself, whom they called the Son. Epiphanius condemns this doctrine as heresy, for in his Nicene view, it reduced Jesus to a man, a righteous vessel perhaps, but still a man. For Epiphanius, Jesus was far more, the divine Son made flesh. Presentations of this Jewish Christian primal Adam theology are also within the Pseudo-Clementines. In the Homilies, we find the following statement: Christ, the only prophet, has changed his forms and his names from the beginning of this world, and so reappeared again and again in the world, until coming upon his own times. His honour it is to bear rule and lordship over all things in air, earth, and waters. But in addition to these, himself having made man, he had breath, the indescribable garment of the soul, that he might be able to be immortal. Here, as with the primal Adam, the Christ is eternal, or at least he has existed since before the beginning of the world, and reappeared again and again in the world. Furthermore, we also have the motif of a spiritual garment or body. While in the recognitions we read the following: He who from the beginning of the world has ever been with men, appearing to each generation, has now, in the end, appeared in the form of a man called Jesus. Again, Christ is the eternal one who has ever been with men, manifesting continually through history. These descriptions closely parallel Epiphanius's report, the same Christ reappearing in different bodies, and ultimately in the person of Jesus of Nazareth. Although there is a difference, whereas Epiphanius frames this in terms of Adam's body, the Pseudo-Clementines express it as the true prophet changing forms. But the underlying idea of recurring embodiment is the same. Epiphanius's claim that the primal Adam doctrine originated with such an obscure and little-known figure called Elxai and was limited to 4 sects is challenged by clear traces of this theology within the New Testament itself. This is nowhere more apparent than in Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, where he writes, "The first man, Adam, was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit." Here, Paul claims that there were at least 2 distinct versions of Adam. Firstly, an earthly Adam of flesh and blood who lived in history and died, and an ethereal Adam that was a quickening or a life-giving spirit. This second Adam is clearly one and the same as the primal Adam known to Jewish Christianity. There is also undoubtedly a distinct trace of Jewish Christian Christology in the description of Jesus as the Son of Man, which appears more than 80 times in the New Testament. In the Gospels, it is invariably Jesus who uses this term to refer to himself, such as in Mark, when he prophesies his own death and resurrection to his apostles. The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and after 3 days he will rise. The Church Fathers and most commentators see the title Son of Man as an affirmation of the human nature of Jesus. But it is only when we translate the term back into Hebrew and then into English again that its association with the primal Adam becomes apparent. The Hebrew word for man is Adama, or Adam. Thus, while the term Ben Adama can be translated as Son of Man, it can also be translated as Son of Adam. Epiphanius reveals that Jewish Christianity possessed a highly developed an internally coherent Christology. Its central motif, that of Christ putting on the body of Adam, meant becoming the representative of man before God, in order to negotiate and establish a divine covenant. This mystical understanding of Christ as a heavenly archetype preceded the Nicene interpretation of Jesus Christ, Son of God, and was later suppressed or reinterpreted within Orthodoxy.